Folks, if you have any problems hearing us, just let us know. Otherwise, we're going to start. It is 9 a.m. on a Monday, and we are streaming for your information and pleasure, even though, at least on my end, I am very tired. I don't know about Jared.
I'm doing all right.
For those of you who are just tuning in for the first time, I am Nitocris, or Julia, the community manager for Neverwinter, and I'm also getting very nervous that I'm not seeing anything in chat. So, Jared, it could just be you and I just talking to each other right now.
That makes it easy.
So yes, Jared, who are you?
I am the systems designer on Neverwinter, and the one that's been doing all this combat changes and work.
Yep. I think you deserve to also add the lead in front of it because you're doing a lot. So
Sure.
yes. Yes, we are doing another Combat Rework, Bonding Runestones, Companion changes, everything that's on preview right now. We're doing another stream. We had one last week. Hey, Eddie, yay, Signs of Life. Hi, Eddie. We did have one last Monday, but we know that there's just a lot of changes, very fast moving. I think we released 2 patches last week on preview.
Yes.
And that's pretty. I mean, normally we only do at most 1 week of patch, or 1 patch on preview. So 2 in 1 week, which were pretty hefty. So we wanted to give players a chance to ask questions about these changes. We are planning on having another stream next week, unless something happens. Questions about the changes. So while I wait for more people to join the chat, more people, yay! Hi, Ansangul. Hi, Swaxwell Silver. Good morning. I'm going to start off by asking a question, and also I apologize for the lighting. Because it's still early in the morning, half of my face is in shadow, and the other half is not, so, But I'm going to start off by asking, I actually focused on the patches from last week. Even though I wrote the patch notes, and I read them, I didn't write them, I just put them on the forums. I do have to give a shout out to Miku, one of our QA testers, who put together the patch notes. So thank you, Miku, for that.
Yeah.
Yes, putting together patch notes is a tedious job. I wanted to cover with Jared a little bit about what was in those patch notes, any major changes, anything significant, or anything that was based on feedback from the community.
Yeah, there's one of the reasons we are getting the patches out quicker is that there's a lot of work in progress, and people are running into different bugs and issues while they're trying to test, so we're trying to just put it up as fast as we can. A lot of work was done on companions. They had a lot of issues, a lot of powers that weren't working right, augment pets weren't getting their stats, stuff like that. I think we finally got the majority of that resolved by the second patch. We did some adjustments to Forte from some feedback. Still more feedback coming in from those changes, so there'll probably be another adjustment or 2 there as well. And then there was just a variety of bug fixes that people were pointing out as they were going through testing stuff, like a couple of zone balance issues. So trying to go through and grab all those reports on the forums as fast as we can. But obviously there's a lot going on, a lot of areas being touched, so we'll just keep rolling out the updates as we get big chunks fixed up. The next update will probably have fighting companions actually doing properly increased damage. There was a couple compounding issues there that were making the changes not go through. So that'll be one of the next big things that people see.
Cool. I am hearing like a whistling sound when you speak sometimes. And it sounds a little bit low, so I don't know if anybody else is hearing or if it's just me. So if you are having audio issues, let me know, folks. But yeah, it's almost like a garbage truck backing up, which
wow.
it could be. I mean, I'm expecting a leaf blower any moment now. But yes, more people, yay! Okay, so we have questions. Thank you. Let's see. Yes, Pinball Wizard. People are dramatizing stuff and panic over everything. So, yes, there's always going to be panic when there's changes, but I don't want to downplay people's, reactions to things, because changes can be scary, especially ones that require you to kind of reassess what you've been playing for a while. So, which is why we're taking it slow and giving players a chance to ask questions. But we do appreciate calm, tempered concern. Let's see. Has Stati 96, will tanks be balanced before the combat changes go to the live server? I don't know if we're doing any specific class balancing, but Jared, I don't know if you want to talk about that.
Uh, it's tough to know specifically what they're talking about. It could be the damage tanks we're taking. We've had some adjustments to boss fights. We've had damage increases. We made bosses do combat advantage damage. And players have been reporting back that bosses are starting to hit tanks pretty well. So I think we're moving in the right direction. If that's what they're referring to. It could also be some people are concerned tanks would have a harder time holding aggro. We're waiting to see how people work with different builds, get their stuff going before we're make any changes to that. But we can change threat and put okay.
Cat!
So the goal is obviously to have everything balanced before we go out.
It always, like when people have questions, it always helps if you can be as specific as possible with your questions, because sometimes the question can be a broad topic, and it's like casting too huge of a net, and it's hard to actually get a specific answer on that. But I did notice that Jared's cat was flicking him with his tail, so I think your cat wants something. Let's see, more questions. Executioner, will you address the fact that sometimes increasing item level leads to loss in damage since you lose your stats cap?
I mean, that's kind of the core of this system, is that as your item level goes up, your stat caps go up. In theory, you can keep them relatively the same once you're set up, because you just start getting more high level gear, which has high level stats. So I think it's going to be more of an issue at first for people figuring out their initial setups. So people said my mic might be going out on me, but
yeah,
I did try to unplug it. So I don't know if my new headset's just broken already.
Ooh, now you've gone quiet. So,
is that any better?
No, still the whistling.
Yeah, I've unplugged it and replugged it, so I'm not sure what else to do.
Okay. Well, we'll hopefully for next week we'll troubleshoot a bit more. Maybe I'll schedule some time to troubleshoot it. So if folks can bear with some of the audio issues, that'd be great. So I apologize for that. Let's see. Yes, you are boiling tea. System 69 says, can I exchange my radiant and empowered stones for astral diamonds?
No, we're only doing the AD exchange for the bonding, because those don't have any purpose anymore. Radiance and empowered still function, and if players don't want them, they can exchange them for other enchants that have other bonuses on them. But the whole point of that exchange is to exchange out items that you'd be using that you feel aren't good for your character anymore, so you swap them to something else that would be a better fit.
Cool. Now I did see some questions, and I don't know if it was addressed in the forums this weekend, but there were a lot of questions regarding how long exchanges would be around. Have we made a determination about how long exchanges will be around? For how long can players exchange stuff with the bonding runestones?
Bonding runestone exchange, similar to other items that went away, will just be there forever. So that way, when people come back to the game, they have items that have no purpose anymore. There's no exchange. For stuff like the Radiant Empowered, it'll be limited time. We haven't determined those exact things yet. I would imagine it'll probably be anywhere from 2 weeks to a month from when it goes live, but we haven't actually decided on this exact time.
Okay. So yeah, folks, I will make sure that whatever we decide in terms of those that are limited time exchanges, that we're very clear about it. And I know most of you folks are going to be pushing for a month instead of 2 weeks, so I will advocate for the community. Let's see. Pinball Wizard asks questions about when we get general overview, or at least a hint about future upcoming items. None for you. Not today. Cry Phoenix, since no one actually used awareness before this preview, is that why you are making more of the emphasis on it, since you're giving bosses CA on their hits? I think they're asking about the logic.
As people saw in live, for a lot of people, awareness just wasn't something they focused on, because for bosses, a lot of our boss fights are just one big target. It's pretty easy to keep from having any combat advantage against you there. And for non-boss fights, a lot of people either weren't concerned because of just the damage output, they ignored it, or they could position themselves well enough. So to make sure that that stat actually has more purpose, we put it on the bosses, and it also makes sense for bosses. They're, typically giant, all-powerful creatures. They get different bonuses against the players for that, and we're trying that out to see how it works. And so far, some of the early feedback is that it's actually pretty good. So we'll keep
Cool.
checking that out and diving into it.
So Wicked Jester had a question about the forge bit and buying armor, but so that would be a separate topic. Since we're focused here on what's on preview, and also I don't know how much involvement you had on the Redeem Citadel stuff, Jared. So I don't know how many questions.
Not
you
a
answered,
lot.
though. Yeah.
It's Doug did most of that stuff.
People recommending plug. It's not a Bluetooth headset, is it? Your headset?
No, it's just a chat.
Let's see. Questions. By the way, I'm kind of I have a pause scroll, so if you see questions that are more recent that you want to answer, let me know. I'm just trying to go in order. Let's see. Ram 9484. Hello there. I heard items will be reworked and looking forward to check. What about other factors like Forte? Yeah, Forte. And companions are adjustments on plan to make easier to balance caps.
I think I'm not sure what they're going for with balance caps. I don't know if it's easier to cap out. If that's the question, then no. One big point is that you can't just cap out all the things you want to cap out. Choices. You have to decide where the stats are going. So, but overall, yeah, there's still be adjustments going on. There's still some bugs with companions. There's still some items we want to look at. Equip bonuses, set bonuses, that kind of stuff. So there'll still be a bunch more changes coming up in several weeks.
Cool. Actually, so that kind of goes to the next thing, which where was yes. Daft Death. What big items are still on the to-do list for future preview patches? On the same note, how done is it feature-wise? I do know we have a known issues list, so I'm assuming we're going to be tackling known issues. But anything else, like any major big changes we're looking at?
I still have to go over weapon and armor and chance. Their specific bonuses. Some of them just give flat ratings, which isn't ideal in this system for something that's procking and going off from time to time. There's a bunch of items that we want to look at the set bonus. We want to take a look at the celestial weapons to see what kind of adjustments we can make there to make sure that they're still one of the best sets out there. So those are probably the key things, but there's also no real shortage of random bugs and issues right now either, if we're trying to get all those cleared up as fast as we can.
Cool. Actually, that brings me to the next question. Do you know when we're planning on doing patches this week? Or is that more of a Terramac question?
I don't, and I don't think we could ever guarantee the days. I think we're hoping to get one out tomorrow, which would have the fighting companion damage increase actually working. And then somewhere at the end of the week, probably to get all the fixes out of you during the week, so Thursday and Friday.
Cool. For those of you wondering, like, what goes into a patch, the build has to be cooked, basically. You have to make it, and you have to hope that nothing fails with the build when you're making it. Then QA has to test it, has to be made, and then it has to be uploaded to Mimic, and then it has to be white gloved, and then it has to be made live. So there are various steps, which is why it does take time to get one, even on PC. Let's see. I lost my place in questions. Let's see. Why have magnitudes been increased on at will, encounters, and dailies, but not on class features that also give magnitude?
So it was mainly a pass-through to get your attacking powers to come up closer in comparison to the mount combat power. I think players view it as wanting a big overhaul. All of them get all the bonuses up there, but I think there's also room for balance adjustments without necessarily doing that in every single case. So at this point, I'm still not planning to just do a pure feat pass of raising all of them, but for certain powers and certain classes, we can look in and see, what adjustments need to be made there. But I think also with these changes, it's tough to know exactly where the classes are balanced to one another since there's so much changed. So I think there's still a lot to be testing out and looking at there too.
Senecide. Is the base damage for all companions going to be the same with the changes?
Base damage, yes. Then companions have different powers. They have different bonuses, even amongst their own powers that don't affect them. So there'll still be differences among them, but the base stats for combat, their ratings, their damage, their health is all taken from you, the owner, and they get a percentage of your hit points, they get a percentage of your damage, and then they get your ratings. So the base will be the same.
I'm seeing more questions about class balancing. I think that's going to be a consistent every time we do, and we have any developer present. I know we talked a little bit when you answered the tank stuff, but are there any long-term plans for additional class balancing?
I don't see class balances ever being a dumb thing, especially for an MMO. I think as we go forward and as we go changes, that we see how that starts showing up in numbers, how it starts showing up in players' approaches to stuff, and then we continue to adjust powers. And even with just items, if we go a long period of time without a big system change, just the new items we introduce can gel with certain classes better than others, and then shift that balance around. So there's a always a strive to go back to class balance. So we haven't adjusted anything really since the healers. We made a couple tank adjustments there too. So we are a little overdue for checking stuff, and I have told Whisper Knight and Thaumaturge for a while that we tackle stuff there, so I'm hoping to get some of that pretty soon as well.
Cool. Let me know which one of your systems designers you want to volunteer as tribute for a future stream. And Singul asks, could we exchange another stone for the merchant? For example, silvery to dark. Silver to dark.
We're not planning to make an exchange for everything. We're trying to get the hardest hit things, and Radiant and Power were definitely the two hardest hit because people had stacked those so much for their power. So if other ones become particularly problemsome, then we could look at exchange. But I think those two are the main chance that people are going to want to be swapping out, as Power is the most effective stat in these changes.
Greyhaster asks, would it be correct to say that paladins have not had a magnitude pass on their powers? Aggro is fine, but damage is pretty bad for doing content.
No, they had a pass on their powers.
Okay. Gray, I don't know if you've been leaving feedback on the preview forums. You can also give me more feedback on my end. I can pass it on. Let's see. More questions. Oh, my goodness. There's a lot of questions. I was really far behind. Let's see. Questions on the binding status. I think the exchanges will be bound, correct?
Yes.
Oh my goodness. More questions? Sorry. If you see anything jump out, let me know. I'm really trying to give everybody a chance as opposed to.
Yeah.
Yep. So crit severity. Any plans to replace this with another like accuracy, combat advantage, or crit chance? Because they say it's the worst defensive stat.
I think there's no plans to change it. I think people are always going to have an order of stats that they think is the most important, and the dual stats, crit strike and crit severity and deflect severity, are trickier ones because there's two stats in play for the effect. But I think there's more than just the stat as well. A lot of people are just looking purely, if I increase the stat, what are my gains on that stat? But we have a lot of insignia bonuses and other powers that do stuff when you deflect or when you crit, stuff like that. So those are extra factors into those stats. So I think there's more depth to it than that. But those people are certainly going to cap their power and defense first, and then depending on the build, they may go awareness, then they go combat advantage as the next two, just because of the situations those apply, but I think there's still other options there.
Now, any lad asks, with all these changes, does this make it a better environment for the release of a new class you guys announced some months ago in the last roadmap? So I'm going to tackle that one real quick, and just say that the creation of a new class is a whole different project beast. And I don't know, Jared, how much like on-hands involvement you have with the creation of a new class. Now, we haven't announced what the new class is, just that there will be a new class, but I think that's more on another dev, right?
Yeah, and these changes don't necessarily make it any easier to make a new class. That was never the stats was never the issue with the new class. It's purely just the time. It was a very long amount of time, a lot of resources between design, animation, effects, because you're making all those powers, you're making the paragon paths, you're getting all that balance, you're clearing all the effects, all that stuff. So it's really just a resource limitation. And we had wanted to do it for a while, and we finally were able to carve out time to dedicate to actually getting another class out.
Yeah, I mean, when you think about everything that goes into a class, it's not just, here's all the powers, here's how the class will function, but, classes have everything, the flavor of a class. Like Jared mentioned, the effects, the animation, and, all the gear that goes into that. So you have many different specialties working on a class together, not just a systems person writing out. It's not just creating for those of you who played tabletop, when you're creating your spreadsheet, yes, you're putting in your stats, but or not spreadsheet, your character sheet. But some areas of the character sheet also have places for you to, do a sketch or describe a history, a backstory. That kind of translates into game development as all of the flourish, all the flavor that goes into, giving a class a personality. So there's a lot of work involved in that. Hastadi96 asks, what will happen to encounters like Absolution and Iron Warrior that have no effect anymore if you are capped at 90% defense?
It's tough to answer off the cuff. There's certainly be some fallout from these changes, and some things have to adjust. But for those, I can't particularly say just off the top of my head.
Okay. I'm guessing we have a wizard here. Will crowd control return as an integral part of gameplay?
So there's no fundamental change to crowd control. It is a stat that's actually been talked about quite a bit on preview, which is both good and interesting to see people focusing on that. Obviously, boss fights are especially tricky, and if they don't have ads, we don't have crowd control on bosses at all right now, for a lot of balance reasons there. So I think they're showing enough interest there that it's something for us to keep on the radar and look at with. But on a whole, that would probably be some 4 changes by itself, and we're already doing so many changes at a time right now. We want to make sure all these get done right and get to live in a good state before we start tackling even more of this. But there certainly has been a lot of interest in it, which is very interesting and good to see.
So execution, another question, has you increase the magnitude on powers, but nothing for proccing feats. For example, HR do a lot of damage from roots, but the magnitude is the same as before. Do you plan on balancing that also?
And we covered that earlier as well. I think there's more to it than that, and there was also the Hunter was one of the most powerful DPS out there right now. They have gotten up there pretty high in the ability to out damage the other classes. So there's some pretty good reasons not to just directly bump all that and have them be that much further ahead of everybody else, and instead look at where they sit for the balance and see what we need to adjust instead.
Dark Horse asks, will max rank Vorpal allow crit severity to hit 110%, or is crit severity always kept at 90%?
Crit severity and all of the stats are always kept at 90%.
So Asterachnologia? Oh my goodness, I'm sorry for butchering that name. Our power, crit, and crit severity capped at 50% for healers on preview, and where we can find new heal and damage formula.
Crit severity is still cut in half for heals, so that would be a cap of 45%. Their crit chance is just the crit strike now, so that is 90% they can get up there. And their power is not cut in half, so that should also be 90% boost if they have that maxed out. So the only one that's special for them should be crit skill.
Anonymous 321 asks, any thoughts about making Fort more customizable? You probably noticed there is quite a lot of people arguing if it should be for that Paragon, like Thaumaturge, or give crit or combat advantage.
Yeah, he's asking if we set up the choice of what your Forte is. That was never really the point of Forte, and I get players looking at that because they want to min-max, they want to get their stats the absolute perfect they can get them, and having something that is defined for them and not the stat they're looking for, makes them uneasy or upset that they don't have that maxed out. But it is meant to be a fixed stat, and that you build with that in mind or work around it. And for some classes, they may seek out more sources of Forte stat because it is so integral to them, or might not seek out as much of it because it isn't so integral to their build. So it is another way to keep classes and builds unique and a bit different from each other. So I don't think we're going to rebuild that system via choice.
By the way, I do feel like I need to defend my reputation, where you and how I pronounce words. And this is how you can tell that I wasn't raised in this country, all the time. And that is because in English, for some reason, words from another language, we love to sometimes pronounce them like in the other language and sometimes not. And I think I'm going to stick to my best example, which is the Rio Grande. Like that has ruined my pronunciation for other foreign language words in English. So I feel like I had to defend my honor for sometimes switching between Forte and Fort. We do have another question. What about the perma deflect? Any news on that? Does accuracy also give us the chance to do the full damage on any hit, and not always 50%, 75% less from the initial hit?
So there shouldn't be any permanent deflect. The code itself caps at 90%. You could have pretty close to permanent deflect, but if there's any bug or issue allowing it to be 100% all the time, then we obviously fix that. Accuracy, you want 90% accuracy to fully negate the critter's deflects. So if you want your full damage going through, then 90% is what you want.
We do have some questions. I kind of scrolled a little bit forward. What exactly will be exchangeable? Mount insignias, enchantments, runestones, etc. Which also goes with another question, which is, are there plans to make companion and mount upgrade tokens tradable? So one is exchangeable, one is tradable.
So most of the time numerics aren't tradable just because of how they function. When we want to make them tradable, we make a bag or something else. I think there are some tradable versions of companion upgrade tokens that come in bags. Mounts, I don't think any exist yet. At some point, we'll probably make some of those. What was the first part of the question? Exchanges?
What exchanges will there be? Because it also kind of goes with, apparently someone asked last time, and I apologize for not getting to it, which is, will weapon, armor, and chance be available when we exchange? So I think people just want more information on what's on the exchange area.
So currently we weren't planning on weapon, armor, and chance. I don't think people should necessarily expect an exchange every time any part of the meta changes. Anytime, because of something now, a certain weapon enchant might be considered better than another. It's more of, for example, the farmings where an item's going away, we obviously want to exchange for that and give people as much of their value back as we can. And when we do a fundamental change where, for example, with the power cap, you have so many power items that you would just be very far over the cap, meaning those have no use. They're literally not applying anything else because we're over the cap. So then we want you to be able to exchange to get items that have use for you. But, just if Foracle is considered the best and then a change comes, so it's considered second or third best, we're not just going to make an exchange for that every single time. That is part of itemization. That is part of changing and your setup and your build over time. So right now we do have the bonding exchange. We have the empowered runestone exchange, and we have the radiant exchange. That's what we have set up now. There's always room to look at others. A lot of people have been asking about the insignia, but just like before, I'm going to let this sit for a while, see what kind of builds people are figuring out, and see if we feel the insignia exchange is also necessary for the ones that keep high.
And actually, this is a question from me. Will the exchange NPC or the area you do the exchanges be available when the combat changes go live, or will it be available like maybe a couple days beforehand, so that people can do the exchanges before combat changes take place?
Right now, it's in this build, so if even it goes live, they're behind the scenes. We have a bunch of different builds, a bunch of different processes we have to go to get through stuff through that and make sure it's okay, and that creates issues down the line for builds anytime we go back to a previous build. So I'm not sure that we would necessarily get this moved into a build before this one goes live, or if we even necessarily have time for that.
Okay.
So I couldn't say for sure. It's something we could look into, but right now it will go live with the actual combat change.
Cool. I personally wasn't sure how we had set up the exchange, if it was an event to turn on or if it was part of the cooked into or baked into the build.
It's an event to turn on, but the actual beta for it exists only in this build.
That makes sense. So I am seeing a lot of questions about a gear, so I'm going to kind of narrow it down to the T3, which was what people are more actually asking about. Will the power cap be increase adjusted, since a lot of the T3 items give power bonuses?
For the hunt tier 3, yeah, that's one of the items that we'll be looking at. Players have brought up a lot. We said we would look at it. It's just we're getting bugs out of the way, a lot of the core issues and big aspects fixed up right, so people can test and the changes the best they can before we jump onto those. But we will be looking at the tier 3 bonuses.
And I'm seeing this question from various people, which was actually also asked in last week's stream, but I think it bears repeating, and it's something we'll probably get asked again next week, which is what was the reasoning behind the combat changes? Why were these changes made?
Sure, that depends. It always depends on how much detail we want to go into, how much the stream want to
I'll let you make that call.
So, a lot of people, I guess not a lot, some people are saying, doesn't this negate all the work for M16? Doesn't that backtrack on that work? And it doesn't really. It builds on top of that. Prior to M16, we had a system where it wasn't just an issue of people were capping stats or anything. It's that the curves were actually maxed out. The game had no more growth for stats, and that was going to be a big problem going forward. And so we rebuilt the underlying systems. We rebuilt how those stats are calculated, what their growth can be, how their curves are, all that kind of stuff. Obviously, there were issues with that when we got live, and there were aspects that people weren't the happiest with, scaling being one that players really didn't like how that was working. We weren't happy with how the scaling was working yet either. And so now we built further on top of that. We used that foundation to push it forward. We took a lot of feedback from the players on issues that they had with the system, aspects that they didn't like. And so we made a scaling that would actually work. We gave some higher caps, which was stuff players were asking for. We got the percents back on the character sheet so that people actually knew where they were instead of having to understand how the rating counter rating formula worked and then what the ratings were produced in every single zone, because they're all different, and understanding all those caps. So we took all that feedback, all that information, we built this new system on top of that to help address as many of those as we could. And so that was really the big reason to tackle this. It was to take that work we'd done before and actually get it to a good place that was hitting all the goals and allowing scale and allowing people to understand what they were doing with their characters. So that's kind of it in a quick summary.
Cool. And so going back, Harper Steele actually has what I think is a really good question, and I'm going to add on to it a little bit, which is Harper asks, is there any specific thing you need tested by the player base on preview? So dungeons, companions, where do you need the most feedback currently? And I'm going to add on to that, which is, have you seen any kind of threads or any dearth of feedback on any specific area that you want more info on?
I would say we have some good info on trials, but it's mostly been on Tower of the Mad Mage. So I think it's been a couple on Zerial as well. But any specifics there, because those are the most hand tuned, each power hand tuned, boss hand tuned. So those, anytime we do a big change, has the most ripple effects. So those ones are always super helpful. And then overall stuff, we've gotten a few reports like zombie rotters were too strong, there was a goblin that was too strong, those kind of things help a lot. But really all of it's good. That's why we made some of the threads. So we could split up the topics as granular as we felt we could without overwhelming both players and myself for reading through it, so that people could give feedback on any of those areas. So really, if you have any feedback on any of them, post stuff there and keep reading through it. And that's one of the reasons I know it's been a little shocking to some people that we're deleting posts in those threads, but we have, I don't know, 12, 15 threads, something like that. When all of them are 6 pages long, no one can find the stuff. People either start repeating things or they don't see information that's come back. It's hard for us to find the bugs. So the whole point of deleting that is just keep those lean as we address the feedback or we address the bugs, pull those out. Things are tough to pull those out, just so we can keep those threads very, very short and easy for someone to look through and say, oh, this hasn't been reported, here's a report, or here's a piece of feedback that they haven't heard. And so that way we can hopefully get everything fixed up and addressed instead of having stuff just lost.
Yeah, no, the threads can, as someone who does a weekly sweep, daily plus a weekly, a Monday sweep of threads, it can be quite overwhelming when there's so much information. So we do need to be a little bit more stringent about calling stuff, unless Adenosi has been in the threads making their summary threads, which I really appreciate when they do that. We have another question about, so it kind of goes with the introduction of a new class, which should we be expecting another combat rework with new class? And I think that speaks a little bit more to the community wondering how much time they can spend with this rework if we're going to do another rework. But I am not aware of any additional rework from what we're doing now when we introduce a new class. Correct?
No, and even if we were going to do one, I don't think we time with the class, because that would make the new class pretty disruptive, because people wouldn't be able to focus on that. So you really want to release the class at a time where the foundations of the game are staying pretty much the same, so people can see how that class is different from what they're playing. We don't have any other big, game-wide changes to this level on the plan or on the future as that we talked about at all. So I wouldn't expect any for a while. We will each year probably tackle at least one system rework like we did Mythic Mounts. We may tackle another system that's been lagging behind or hasn't got a lot of love and attention in a while, and then fix that up and do something. But nothing there's nothing I see on the horizon that would fundamentally change combat or anything else. I don't think people have to worry for quite a while.
Well, I mean, your name is No Worries, so can I have to live up to that name?
Yeah.
Unless you were going for irony, Jan asks, I apologize if it was asked, Forte, will be any change to it like presets, or is it a done deal, 3 fixed stats per Paragon?
We'll most likely go forward with live with 3 fixed stats. That doesn't mean that as people adjust to the combat changes and now it's going live that we can't ever revisit that system. It's one of those balancing things of we are introducing this new thing that has goals of differentiating the classes a bit and also at the same time helping people focus on other stats. Like it helps tanks and DPS get their power and defense up high pretty quick, so that doesn't have to be on focus. But anytime something like that goes live and people play with it for a long time, we see how people build, we see how people are interacting with it. It can certainly be revisited. It can have changes to it, that kind of stuff. So I don't think people should worry as much that it goes live in that state, and that means that's for the next 5 years. That's what Forte is. It's that we introduced a new aspect of the game. we'll get it out there, hopefully in a very fun and balanced way. And then if over time we go, it actually would be more exciting or the game change it up and make choices. That's definitely something we can do. It's as hopefully as we're showing with this, as much as it disrupts some people, we can change aspects of the game, and so we can take feedback. We can adjust how different elements and systems work. It will always be evolving. We'll always be trying to make it the best that we can. But for the initial one, with everything else going on, we'll probably stick to just 3 fixed stacks.
So Big Puppy Store asks a question that I'm going to try to field, which is the constant system changes why we are not seeing new content like classes and bug fixes. So I want to dispute the whole not new content, because we just got, we released M19, and then we also had the Redeemed Citadel. So there has been new content worked on. And we know we're currently, working on M20, and some of you might be aware that we already have early access groups in M20. So there is parallel development going on. But it is true that we sometimes have to allocate our resources more accurately. Cryptic is not a believer in crunch. Sometimes people do put extra hours. I know, Jared's been on weekends, spending his weekends working on the feedback and the forums. I'll work at all different hours. But it is something that we still try to respect people's time. And so our producers really try to do a good job in scoping and making tough decisions about what content gets worked on at the same time, because we don't want to overtax our resources. It's just something that we do try to keep in mind, that there are actual people working on the game. But there has still been content in development, and there is still content being developed right now. So I don't know if, Jared, you wanted to add to that. I just feel like I had to speak up.
Yeah, I think your summary was good there. I think people tend to focus on whatever's happening right at this moment, and they don't necessarily remember everything that led up to this moment. And so M18 had new content, and M19 had new content in very big zone. Redeemed Citadel was big and added a lot of stuff. We have an M20 module to bring new content, so there's definitely no shortage of new content. There's no sense of we're just not doing new content, we're doing stuff like this. So I think it's more that people are focusing on Redeemed Citadel is finished up on PC. I think they actually finished up the milestone on PlayStation, potentially Xbox as well, I'm not sure. So that's all done now. And so I think the focus becomes what's the next thing, and right now they're seeing this, which is, but there is new content coming up very shortly as well.
So there are 2 questions. One of them was, can we get console characters transferred to preview? It's different servers, so no, you cannot transfer a console character to a preview. And then we also have questions about hunt lures and lure trophy stacking. Not really the right stream for that question. That would be a more of a Astrodal question. So I can't answer that. I don't think Jared can answer it really either, unless he wants to try. Like, why don't certain stack?
Oftentimes the reason certain things don't stack is that the goal is not to have people the whole time. That's generally the reason. So if it's an item that we want people to collect up a bunch and store a whole bunch, then we make it stackable. And if it's something that we want to make it more difficult to hoard big amounts, then we make it not stackable. So it's probably along those lines.
Tempest Fire 01 asks, a bit late, so I don't know if this was asked yet. There was a bit of confusion right now about how much stats a companion should be giving, and should Bolster affect companion item level, because currently it doesn't.
The last update, I think, should have made Bolster give you item level. It won't show directly on the companion itself because of how that is set up. And we've been talking about some ways to better message that, but it had not been up until the last update. But yes, Bolster should, if you have a 100% Bolster, you had a Mythic Companion, you get 1500 item level from the Mythic Companion, then you get 1500 from the Bolster. And that should be in place now on preview. So that was not happening up until recently. And the stats should be, for a fighting companion, 85% of the item level just goes to all your ratings, so it works as combined rating. And for an augment, 85% still does that, and then the other 15% is for 3 individual stats, so 5% to each of them. So that should be how the stats work.
Cool. This is another question for another stream, but it was answered on Ranger Reek's stream where he had Astrodal and Randy, which was, will the new race be available in the Zen store? I missed the first second milestone, so I can't get it. This was answered by Doug, and that is most likely in the future it will be available for purchase. It's just that we don't want to do it. It's not something we want to do right now because we want to honor the fact that people were working towards it and participated in the Redeem Citadel while it was happening. But it will most likely be something that will be available down the road for purchase. And when I have more information on that, I will share it. All right. Again,
Someone asked.
Yeah, go ahead.
Someone asked if companion bolster increases 60% given by companions and ACP slots. It does not affect the ACP slots currently. It's a thing I've been thinking about and going back and forth on. I don't think it would, if we added it to there, it would go to the percents because we're trying specifically not to have huge bonuses, permanent bonuses to those percent slots because they fill up and then they max out. But it would, if we did, it would just go with combined rating, so you get more hit points, you get more damage, and then it would just raise all your stats. But it's not something I've done yet. It's not something I decide on. So if people want to discuss whether or not they like that, feel free to get informed and talk about it.
We are getting more questions about kind of release dates. Harper asks, is the goal to release the combat changes to live before Mod 20 are coinciding? I don't know if we're ready to kind of announce any dates because I don't know if it's if the date for releasing combat changes is still movable. So I don't know if you want to give more details, Jared, on that. On like what
so they're not
estimate.
They're not planning to go live at the same time. As you were saying, we're not ready to say the release dates. So one of those reasons is we're seeing how this work goes on preview, and we don't want to say, we'll go live on a certain date and then realize that we need a couple extra weeks on preview to get it in a better place for live. So that's why we're not saying those yet, but the plan is that they are not at the same time. So the Combat Rework would go live, and then a period of time after that, we would put out N20, so if they were a bit separate, we could focus on them individually.
Yes, I mean that kind of goes with we do learn. Sometimes we have to be slow on the uptake, but we do learn on the fact that we, sometimes we've gone out and released something on preview saying it's going to go out live this day, and some players are like, well, why put it on preview if you already know what date you're going to release it, and it means you don't have enough time to make modifications. And our hope is that as players see, we with the 2 patches last week on preview and the continued effort we're doing to listen to the feedback and make adjustments. That it shows that we are invested in bringing you into the development process, which is messy, can be all over the place, but is pretty rewarding, I think. Let's see. More questions. See, Tempest Fire. Follow-up question to be clear. So in essence, an augment companion is basically like an enchant that gives rating equal to its item level with 85% of its combined and 15% as its 3 unique stats. And if this is the case, do you believe 4,500 rating is equal to the 7-10% extra damage a combat companion is supposed to deal? Whoa. Okay, Jared, go ahead. That was a lot of stats and numbers thrown.
Yes. So the first thing is, if you factor in 100% bolster, you're talking more just under 7,000 stats. So where the person's saying 4,500, I don't think they're factoring in all the aspects there. And so at that point, you could say, let's assume people didn't just have power maxed out. If you added 7,000 power, you increase your damage 7%. So there's an easy comparison there. The other thing is that those companions can die. They can get out of position. They can end up not attacking, for the full fight, just as you move from fight to fight. So they aren't as consistent as an augment where you're just 100% of the time, that's always there. That's what you're getting. Fighting companion has some downtime. So I think for that reason, it needs to be a little bit higher of a percent than a direct connection over. But I have said on the forums a lot that we really want to try to get these to where people feel both in an option. So as we're dialing that in and players are giving their feedback, if we're at a point where everyone says, well, fighting is the only way to go, then we might lower that percentage a bit to where people start feeling it's an option thing. So it's very much up in the air that we can keep dialing that around to where it works so that it doesn't overshadow augment.
Hopefully that answered. Another question we have is, can we have on forum a clarification about a post about enemy ratings, percentage stat, and boss ratings, percentage stat, and if different critters bosses have different ratings?
So none of the bosses would have different ratings. They might have things that come into effect during certain phases or certain powers that they use, but as their base values, they would all be the same. All the critters actually have the same base ratings throughout the entire game now, which is one of the things that makes that percent on your character sheet work and what makes it accurate everywhere. So if we went around and were changing that, then that percent wouldn't really add up as much. So, but yeah, I think I've called out some of the info in some different threads, but we can try to get it in a more centralized place or in the least in the opening post on one of the things like the stats thread or something, so it's easy to find.
Yeah, I mean, I actually have been on my end trying to figure out the best way to put all this information in one cohesive area. I did start creating a playlist on YouTube, which will be the Combat Rework streams. So after a couple days, I usually export or I upload the video or these streams up to YouTube, and so there'll be that playlist. But I am looking for a centralized place to put links to all the patch notes that were released, the feedback threads, and embed the videos, just so that there's kind of a vault, so people can, even when changes go live, people can kind of take a look back and look at the process of how it came to be. So, let's see. Akula 2045. Has anyone told you how awesome you guys are for putting yourselves out there in the community? Thank you. We love to hear that. So at least I'll never tire hearing it. But I do have to.
They usually tell us the opposite.
Yeah, even when we do a lot of streams, we still sometimes hear the why are you doing these? And we do them because we care and we think it's important. Someone asked, did I miss any giveaways? There's no giveaways today because this is focused on the Q&A. But there is another stream happening this week with me, myself, and I, and any dev who wants to join me, which will be the Winter Festival stream on Friday, where there will be giveaways during that stream, including, at least for now, one legendary mount of mine. I pulled Belgura, I can never pronounce it properly, which I don't have it on that, I don't have that one, but instead of claiming it, I am going to go ahead and give it away because I like you all. So there will be that. So yes, more giveaways on Friday. Let's see. We have time for maybe 1-2 more questions. Can you speak about the new system and how it appears to affect solo play? Many players don't want to have to pug or team up for the majority of content they play.
Sure. So none of the dungeons and skirmishes were really ever intended to be soloed, and certainly not soloed easily. That was more a factor of scaling never working properly. So one of the feedbacks has been, it takes a lot longer to try to solo a dungeon and that kind of stuff. And it should. Like if you're going into what's meant to be 5-person content and you're doing it by yourself, it should take longer. That is just the reality of that. So yes, I think there's some people a little bit shocked that they aren't soloing a skirmish in 5 or 6 minutes. But that is part of getting the balance in a good place, getting it to where it was meant to have been before. Overall, there's been some thoughts that leveling dungeons, for example, take a little bit longer, and that because of that, the rewards might not be as worthwhile. And so that's stuff that we'll obviously be looking at. But yeah, it's not that we're actively trying to say you can't solo, but if you're going to solo, it should at least be a bit of a challenge or a bit of time for it to do so. If it's specifically group content. For the zones, you should still be able to solo. It's fine. Besides some specific balance issues of certain critters being off, most people seem to say that they can do most of the zones fine. So I think we're in a good place for most areas as far as I know.
And as someone who does a lot of solo play, um, just because I don't think it, since I do play during work hours sometimes, I don't think it's fair to team up and then all of a sudden have to just leave because I get called into a meeting or something. So I do a lot of solo play, so I can always give feedback on that as well. See that Chris is in the chat, so hi Chris, Snow Crash, and someone asked about the updated roadmap, and he answered, update to roadmap will be early next year. So just to give a little bit more to that as well, during, I have one-on-ones with the lead producer who I report to, and that is a topic of conversation that comes up a lot, the roadmap. I ask him quite frequently, any updates to the roadmap, or, because he also sees the value of sharing the roadmap with the community. So, next time we're ready to talk, release any updated roadmap, we will go ahead and do that because I enjoy doing those streams. I'm not sure about the rest of the team, but I enjoy it. All right, one more question. Jared, is there anything that caught your attention?
No, it seems. I've been trying to follow it, but it's tough to read it while also talking. But it seems like it's a lot of stuff similar to the stuff that we've been talking about. Unless I've missed anything particularly.
So there's Tempest Fire has one more on companions. Some augments are giving 5510 rating on preview, such as a Deep Crow. I'm guessing that is a bug, and the total rating an augment gives should be equal to its item level to a maximum of 45k.
I have to do the math there.
Well, you can't do it on the spot? What kind of systems designer are you?
I know. I mean, I could call out on the forum specifically what the total stat should be when mythic, but I don't have that on there.
Okay, and I think your kitty. What is your kitty's name, by the way, if you don't mind sharing?
That one's name is Belle.
Belle. Hi, Belle. I think the kitty indicator is the. We are going to call it for today. Yes, kitty power, says Noah. But as a reminder, you have one stream with me, a Winter Festival stream on Friday with giveaways. That'll be a fun stream of casual play, or watch me try to play and talk at the same time, which I know amuses a lot of people. And then next Monday at 10 a.m., so not 9, thankfully 10, 10 a.m. Pacific time next week, December 21st, we will have another Combat Rework Q&A. So, stay tuned for more changes on the preview server this week for patch notes. Test out those changes, bring your questions and get them ready for next Monday. But we're also still in the forums. Well, by we, I mean Jared is reading the preview forums and answering stuff. So yes, keep giving us feedback. This has been a great experience. So thank you everybody who tuned in, and we will see you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.